All right, we're here with David Kramer of the Hudson Related companies in front of Riverwalk Building 9, the construction site. So David, can you tell the Roosevelt Island community what's happening here today and over the last few months?
Sure. So construction began at the end of last year. I remember that, yeah.
November.
What's that?
It was in November.
Start at the beginning. Construction began in November, and we're now at the exciting stage of concrete where we pour a new floor every 3 days. It's referred to as a 3-day cycle. So we're pouring the 5th floor tomorrow, and we're pouring, which is Tuesday, May 9th, and we're pouring the 6th floor Friday. And so basically, if you think about every 3 business days, we're pouring a different floor. We're getting to the top floor at the end of August. So we're assuming we're going to top out this project at the end of summer, end of August. And so now this is sort of an exciting part of the construction where the concrete guys are really running the show and pouring a new floor every 3 days, and they're followed behind by the plumbers, electricians, mechanical subcontractors. There will always be a few floors below where the concrete is poured.
Mm-hmm. And then what happens once you top out in terms of the other trades? How does that work?
Most importantly, when we top out, we have a party and we have a t-shirt. And David Kramer, every time he approves a project, he always says he wants a topping out t-shirt. So after we top out, that's the end of the concrete guys, and everybody follows behind. So when we're topping out the 30th floor with concrete, the concrete masonry units will maybe at floor 22, which is filling in the openings with those concrete blocks, and then maybe brick will be at the 15th floor, windows will be at the 8th floor, and everybody sort of follows behind. And what happens is that the plumbers, electricians, carpenters follow behind the concrete. So what happens when they've topped out on the 30th floor is that if you walk down from the 30th floor to the 2nd floor, in the 30th floor it's basically all raw concrete. And by the time you're at the 2nd floor, you're like, oh, I can see the apartment taking shape. I can see the metal studs where the bedroom shapes are beginning to take shape. You can see where the electrical panel is. You can see where the toilet's going. You can see where the kitchens are. And then as the building becomes enclosed, which is the next important benchmark with windows and roofs, then you can feel comfortable putting in more of your finishes like drywall and finished carpentry.
And how many people do you have working on the site?
Today there's about 140, 150. I asked, and when they said it was 140, 150, my first reaction was like, oh, good for the retailers, because I know that our retailers always do well if people here are having lunch. Mm-hmm. And I don't know the number, but 140 is not the max number. It'll be more when all the other subs are at sort of full utilization. And then it'll drop off when the concrete guys go away, because as you've seen from your window, when there's a pour, there are a lot of concrete guys that are involved with the pouring of the concrete.
And can you talk a little bit about how you've worked around the subway being right adjacent to the site?
Yeah. The 63rd Street subway is sort of the animating catalyst for our design of Riverwalk, because we wanted to avoid something called the line of influence, which is a 45-degree line from the bottom of the subway track. So if you think about the subway tunnel on 63rd Street and a 45-degree angle, we wanted to avoid placing any buildings within that right angle, that right triangle, because that would require additional oversight from the MTA that we wanted to avoid. So by placing all of our buildings outside of the line of influence of the subway, which is Riverwalk Place, Riverwalk Landing, Riverwalk Point, and our final Riverwalk 9 building, we were able to avoid the line of influence.
work.
Not even a Roosevelt Islander interview will stop progress. And so when we were designing Riverwalk and thinking about avoiding the line of influence, our Riverwalk design began to take shape that space would become the commons. That would be our open space. And that led to our thinking, okay, then the retail will be in the third and fourth buildings fronting the commons. And that was sort of the important practical reason why the commons is where it's at, and where the location of the northern wall of Riverwalk 9 and the southern wall of Riverwalk Park are basically exactly where the 45-degree angle comes out from the subway tunnel.
And what about the plans for the commons itself? Are they still being developed, or do you have an idea what
It's pretty done. It's going to be another great public resource. There's going to be a pretty large dog park. There's going to be areas for picnicking, sitting around.
Another brief time out.
We shared the design with you for what I call Commons East, and it hasn't changed materially since you posted it. So go on your Roosevelt Islander archives and you'll find it. And it's going to have a lot of great spaces for public enjoyment. The design challenge is that there's at least a 10-foot grade change between Main Street and the promenade. And so to have handicap accessible paths at the right grade change lead from Main Street to the promenade, we had to sort of snake a path so that it's at the right incline percentage. Wow.
The fire hydrant.
That's really scary.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the building, David? Who are the tenants? Is it market rate?
Most importantly for your readers, there's a new REOC office space on the ground floor. So there's a REOC office space.
I'm sure they'll enjoy being closer to me.
If the seat of power moves to Riverwalk, that benefits all of us. Excuse me while I swallow some construction dust. The basement building, we made a deal with Sloan Kettering for their staff. Not unlike what we did in Riverwalk Point and Riverwalk Landing. And then the balance of the building is a market rate rental. So we met all of our affordable housing requirements with Riverwalk Park. And so Riverwalk Point is going to be a full-on market rate rental, Sloan Kettering at the base, REOC office space at the base, brand new Commons East to the north. That's the basic program. But it's the tallest building in Riverwalk. All the buildings to the west of Main Street are 16 stories, and those two buildings are 21, and this is 28. So we saved the tallest for last.
And when do you anticipate the building being completed?
Hopefully by the end of 24, beginning of 25.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say about the building?
You always come back in 6 months.
Do you like Roosevelt Island?
What's
that?
Like
working on Roosevelt Island?
What's that?
Are you going to miss working on Roosevelt Island once this is completed?
No, there's always the next one.
There's always the next one. All right. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate talking with us.